Okay, this is a presentation on applications to Asian universities. Up until quite recently, Hong Kong was probably one of the places that I encourage students to look at in terms of in the Asian region. There's lots of exciting things going on there. I visited almost all of the 8 main universities a year or two ago and found out that it's a very good education. There's lots of opportunities there. If students are especially looking to get into the Chinese market or the Chinese mainland to work afterwards, Hong Kong is a really good gateway. And there's lots of opportunities there for students. Given the recent happenings in Hong Kong, some families might be weary about sending their kids there between the protests and the Chinese change in the law. But I do think it's still a really good opportunity, and there's lots of scholarship money out there for students who want to go. Hong Kong schools, I got very clear messages from them that they would like to diversify their campus. They have a lot of mainly Hong Kong students from Hong Kong, and then a certain percentage from China, and then a certain percentage they can have from the rest of the world. And so they want to really that 1% from the rest of the world. They really want to diversify, and they have scholarships for people who are in the Southeast Asian region. But even if you aren't from Southeast Asia, if you're from Europe, there's some really attractive scholarship offers there. The scholarships will be based on your IB numbers, and it's this is their language that they use on campus and across all their classes is in English. You don't need to know Chinese Mandarin. If you can pick up some along the way, that would be good. These are the main universities. The University of Hong Kong is probably the best well-known. Very comprehensive school. They have law and medicine and everything else. The Chinese University of Hong Kong is probably the biggest in terms of sheer student numbers, but they do a nice job of breaking down people into communities. Hong Kong University of Science and Technology isn't just science and technology. They do have very strong engineering programs, but they also have a very strong business school and other arts and sciences. Same thing with Polytechnic University, very good in engineering, and they also have other majors. Lingnan University is kind of the flagship liberal arts school. So if you're looking, and is the smallest one out of all of them. So if you're looking for a small liberal arts place, Hong Kong Baptist University, it's not religious. It was originally established by a religious order, but they are no longer associated with them, but they kept the name. So it has a range of majors in there as well. The Education University of Hong Kong is for people who want to go into education, but they also have psychology and a few other majors besides just education. City U is right in downtown. They offer some interesting majors. They're the youngest university. They're trying to establish themselves as having some unique things going on. The thing about being young is they're also adaptable, and they also have their ear on what sort of is going on in industry right now, and they can change very rapidly. So data science is one of their biggest areas that they're focusing on. So that's a neat little university. All of these need applications. They will often need. They're kind of all different. They will want your IB predicted scores. They will want your transcript. They may usually want a recommendation, a teacher recommendation or a counselor recommendation. It really depends. As long as you have IB, they don't need SAT scores usually. And they also, though, have a quota of how many students they can have. And so as a result of that, if they accept you, they want you to commit within 3 weeks of their acceptance. So the earlier that you apply, the more likely you will be to get accepted, and the more likely you will that there's scholarship money, but you would need to lock in about 3 weeks to a month. They'll give you an extension, but not for long. So if Hong Kong is sort of your primary, and you have no other choices, I mean, you're not considering anywhere else, I would encourage students and families to apply early. If it's your second or third choice, I would wait. I would wait till closer to the spring. You'll need to look at they usually have windows that you apply. And so most of them will have like an early like fall window, and then they'll have another window in the spring. So you'll have to check them each out and see where you want to go. They are very affordable, and they do have scholarship money. And then to work in Hong Kong is very attractive after it as well. Let me talk about Japan. So universities have been told that they need to have at least one bachelor degree. For example, Kyoto, I just checked out the other day. They have civil engineering as their one totally English-based degree. They also have civil engineering in Japanese, but you can also do a complete degree in civil engineering there in English. And so if you take a look at that website I have there, it's just a list of Japanese universities. If you click on them, by now all of them will have at least one, and usually only one. Right now it's still early. But if you want other schools, look at other schools that have more English programs. The other names that are there, for example, the International Christian University, I think, has 30 majors I saw in English. And then Waseda also has quite a few in English. Temple University, so Temple, its original campus is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but they have a Japanese campus that's fairly big. I think 1,000 or 2,000 students, and they've been there for a long time. So it's an American type education within Japan. And then Ritsumeikan University, they've been called APU, Asia Pacific University. They've been doing English programs for a long time as well. I don't know how many they have right now, but they have established themselves as a good place to go if you want to go to Japan. And then University of Tokyo has a couple of majors, and they're extremely competitive. So check with each school to see what the requirements are. Most of the time, they'll want IB scores, predicted scores, your transcript, usually at least one recommendation letter, usually from a teacher. So you'll have to bounce into them. If you want to go beyond sort of this list here to see who's in Japan, come and let me know, or go to that website and you can look around. But these are the campuses that students in the past 7 years have targeted. And there's a reason, because there's more variety of majors. Singapore is a hard one. Not many students have applied to Singapore over the years. They're very competitive to get into. The three that are there are the ones that are most well known. But there's also a Yale NUS campus, which is a arts and sciences campus. It sits right next to the National University of Singapore, and it is an American education. It's not Yale and it's not NUS. The two schools came together to form a liberal arts campus, and it's a standalone campus. It's really some exciting things going on there. You should explore it. And then they also have LaSalle College of the Arts. Embry-Riddle has got a campus there. Embry-Riddle is a engineering and aerospace that they're known for, but they also have other majors. For the national universities, you have to wait till your actual IB scores come out before you are accepted. So students can begin to apply in like March or April, and they want predicted scores, and they want transcript, and they'll want a recommendation letter. And a few other things. They won't need SAT scores if you're IB, but they won't give you a conditional acceptance until after your IB scores. And consistently from these three universities, you need to be in the upper 30s, lower 40s to have a chance. In fact, they've stated very plainly that if you're not in the 40s, if you are in the 40s, you have a shot of getting in, but they can't guarantee it. But if you're in the 40s, that gives you a good shot. If you're in the upper 30s, if the year happens to be low numbers, then maybe you can get in. So they're restricted on the number of international students they can take, and the pool is usually highly, highly competitive. Um, but Yale and US is more accessible if you're looking for something that is not sort of business, strictly business or engineering related. They do have some interesting majors that could lead to business and could lead to engineering, but it's mainly in arts and sciences. If you're looking at Korea, I'm going to kind of go here quickly here. So Korean universities, they start their application period is actually after the winter break. They have windows when students can apply, and these are the main large universities that most students, Korean students, apply. There are English programs within these universities. You can take a bachelor degree. You really have to dig down and find out how many have bachelor's degrees, and I would say probably the top 3 offer the most bachelor degrees. So even if you're not Korean, you can go to these schools and get a bachelor degree. But you really probably need to be a reason, like if like you want to learn the language, you want to you want the experience of doing a degree in Korea. I would, after visiting all these, most of these universities on this list, I would say you really need if you want to dive into the culture, if you want to learn the language, if there's other reasons that you want to go to Korea other than just sort of looking up and going to Korea. And you need pretty high scores on IB. KAIST is strictly engineering and science, or STEM. I would say STEM majors. So that for a foreign student might be more attractive. And they want typical sort of what the United States requires. If you're Korean, they want to know how they want report cards all the way back to see how long you've been outside of Korea. Certificate of expected graduation. So as you're going through this process, you just need to let the secondary office know exactly what you need for each university. There is a global campus in Seoul, and anybody can apply to this. So what they've done is they've made this zone where these American universities, not just American, Ghent University as well, and so they each offer a handful of majors. And any student can apply, whether you're Korean or not. And so they're small, have a small number of majors, but between them all, it's an interesting balance. So you can apply there if you want to be in Korea, but get more of a United States type education. That's a good option. That's it for the Asian universities.